I believe you already downloaded VS Code. I would go ahead and open up VS Code. If you have not done that, please check the previous video. Now that we've been able to open our Visual Studio Code environment, let's go ahead and talk about some of the basic sections in Visual Studio Code. First, we have the Explorer. Basically, this is where your folders and files are displayed as you create them or as you load them up in Visual Studio Code. Next, we have Search. This is how you perform search operations within a particular file or within a directory in Visual Studio Code. Next is for source control. This is active when you have a source control or a version control system in your project. We will get to that shortly. You have the run and debug section, which is responsible for giving you details about your debug operations while working on a project. Next, you have extensions. Visual Studio Code is very robust. You can download multiple extensions and make your workflows even easier. You can download extensions for running your JavaScript files. You can download extensions for multiple platforms. You can download extensions to aid faster operations. We will use a couple of extensions as we proceed through the lecture. We don't have any file or folder opened in our Explorer. Let's go ahead and create a new file. If you're using a Windows machine, you will definitely see the menu bar at the top here, similar to what I have now. I'm going to create a new file. I have created a new file. The file is currently named Untitled1. This is because we have not saved the file and we have not set a location for the file. The next thing I'm going to do is to go to the File menu once again and click on Save. I'm going to show you how to start off writing HTML using Visual Studio Code. Let's go ahead and open up our browser. Next, I'm going to create a folder. I'm going to call this Web Basics. Next, I'm going to move this into Visual Studio Code. Now that we have Visual Studio Code opened, we have the name of our folder right here. The next thing I'm going to do is to create a new document using this icon. So when you hover on this icon, it shows the functionality of the icons. This is to create a new file. This is to create a new folder. This is to refresh the Explorer. And this is to collapse the folders in the Explorer. Let's go ahead and create index.html. You can create an HTML file with any name you want. This is the entry point to our folder, meaning if you open this folder on your browser, it's going to locate the index.html first. Let's go ahead and talk about some basic elements or tags in HTML. HTML basically describes the structure of your web page. It is made up of a couple of elements, also known as tags. Let's go ahead and talk about the basic structure. This is a quick example of what an HTML document looks like. These are referred to as HTML tags. We're going to explain these tags and we'll also explain how each of these tags work. Let's go ahead and see how this will be rendered on our browser. This is what we have. We currently open this page on our browser. That is why we see webbasics/index.html. This is the paragraph that was in our document, and this is the title that we had in our document. Now let's go ahead and explain what we have right here. First, you see we have HTML. HTML is the first tag you would have on your page, basically describing that this is an HTML document. Next, we have the head. This is where we put in all basic constructs of this web page, such as the descriptions, the title, the links to a couple of CSS files, and also you can have a JavaScript loaded up in the head of your document. Next, we have body. This is where you put in all the content that should go into your web page. And finally, we close this with another HTML tag. Basically, every tag would have a closing tag. There are a couple of tags that do not need closing tags though, and we'll definitely work with some of them as we proceed with the class. Now let's create a new HTML document that will describe a user profile. First, we have the HTML tag. Next, we have the head. Within the head, we have our title, and the title would say user profile. Let's go ahead and save this. Let's move over to the browser. Let us refresh this. We have the user profile showing up here. We don't have anything on the body because basically we have not added anything to the body section of our page. Let's go ahead and add the body tag now. Let's create a heading, user profile. Let's go ahead and add a paragraph. Let's save this. Let's go back to the browser. Let's refresh. As you can see, we have the H1 and we also have the P. P stands for paragraph and H stands for heading. Basically, we have 6 standard types, which is ranging from H1 to H6. Let's go ahead and see what these headings look like on our browser. As you can see, now you can see that the headings are of different sizes and width depending. Now you can see that the headings are of different sizes. H1 happens to be the biggest, followed by H2, H3, down to H6. You can also modify the sizes of these elements with your CSS. We're not doing that now, but based on the standard implementation of these elements, the lower numbers gives you higher sizes when presented on your web browser. We're going to add extra paragraphs. Now we're going to change the text in here. Let's save this, move on to the browser, and we refresh. Now you can see we have 4 paragraphs displayed accordingly. Let's go ahead and add H1. Save and refresh. So now you can see that we have the H1 and 4 paragraphs on our web page. Let's go ahead and add a link to our website. Using the A tag, which stands for anchor, we can actually set a link by using hyperlink reference. Now I'm going to put in https solomonmarvel.com. Visit my website. Now this will be displayed on our web page, and when we click on this, it's going to take us to this website. Let's go ahead and test this. Back to the browser, refresh. Now you can see that this took us to a different web page. Let's go back to the previous page. You can decide to add the target attributes. Adding the target attribute of blank will make this open up in a new web tab. That means it will not override this current page, but instead it will open up in a new page. So we have the previous page opened. Now we have the new web page opened in a different browser tab. Let's close this. What are attributes? Attributes are basically the properties of a particular tag or element that can be used to customize or change the behavior or appearance of that element. A quick example is the style attribute. Using the style attribute, we can basically write inline CSS style. We are not working with CSS yet, but this is a quick example of how you can use the attributes. You can set the color to red. Let's go ahead and save this page. Refresh our browser. We have the text, "I love to code," in color red. We'll work with more attributes as we proceed. Practice this at your own time and ensure you try out these attributes. Let's work with more tags. I would like to make consultant here bold by using the B tag. Now, the B tag was not placed at the end. Instead, we placed the B tag just before closing the P tag. This is because every tag should actually enclose its content. Now, looking at this tag, the immediate content is consultant, which means we have to close this tag before closing the P tag. Let's make this bold as well, but this time using the strong tag. The strong tag will definitely serve the same purpose. Let's save this, head over to our browser, refresh the page. Now we can see we have reviewing and we also have consultant with bolder font weights. Let's go back to the code. We are going to apply the break tag after software engineer. Let's go ahead and add the B arrow tag. This does not require a closing tag. This would basically break the line into two lines. Hi, I'm Marv, a software engineer from Lagos, Nigeria. When I refresh the page, we now have from Lagos, Nigeria on a new line. What we are going to do is to use the H arrow tag to create an horizontal row in between this content. Let's save this, go back to the browser and refresh the page. Now you can see that we have an horizontal row running from the beginning of the file down to the end of the file, and it creates a demarcation between the initial content up above and the rest of the content down below. We're going to have the button tag right here, and then we're going to have contact me. Now the button tag will be clickable. To make the button functional, we need to add some JavaScript, and we'll be doing that when we get to work with JavaScript. For now, this is just going to create a simple button on our website with the detail "Contact Me." Let's go ahead and preview this. We have "Contact Me" right on the same line with "Visit my website." What we want to do is to use the B arrow tag to ensure that this is on a new line. Let's save our document. We can also save by clicking on File and clicking on Save. Now you can see that the anchor tag is seated right on top of the Contact Me tag. Let us add more space using another B arrow tag. Save your document. This created an extra space in between the anchor link and the button. A different color for the text profile. We can use the span tag for this. The span tag is basically an inline container, which means we can use the span to change the appearance of the text within some other elements. Let's go ahead and set a style for this, which is a property, of course. Then we'll set the color of blue. Let's save this, head over to the browser, refresh. Profile appears in blue color. Next, what is the difference between div and section? Basically, a section describes a certain portion of your web document that is grouped together. For example, you can call this web links. Remember to put this in a tag. Let's work with H1. Let's also demarcate this using the HR tag. This section is going to contain all the web links related to this profile. Next, we're going to have a div. A div or a division creates a grouping, but the difference between the div and the section is that the section actually has a meaning because it serves as a container for all other components here. Div does not really have a semantic meaning. It is basically used to group contents for presentation with or without a specific meaning in the grouping. Within the div, we're going to have social links in H2. We're going to create another div, and within this div, we're going to have web link in H2. Right beneath the social link, we're going to have A with hyperlink reference. Here we're going to have Twitter. We're going to duplicate the code there and we'll have LinkedIn. We're going to have our Twitter handle. And we're going to have the LinkedIn handle. Right beneath the web link, we're going to have another anchor tag with an hyperlink reference to a website. Let's save this back to our browser. Let's refresh. As you can see, we have web links, we have social links, and we have web link. Change this to H4. Also change this to H4. Let us save. Back here and refresh. Now we have, this is my profile. We have a demarcation right here. We have another demarcation right here using the HR tags. Here we have Twitter and LinkedIn. And here we also have websites. Let's go back here and let's try to style this div with a simple attribute of style. We're going to use a background color of yellow. We are also going to put in a style attribute with a background color of black. Let us adjust the color to make the text visible. Let's save this. Let's add a B arrow tag to create a demarcation between the two divs. Let's save. Go back to the browser and refresh. Now you can see that we have the social links in a div. We also have the web link in another div. Both divs are found within a section which semantically describes all the links in our page. We already have the profile in blue. Let's also go ahead and make the profile appear in italics. Basically, this can be done using the I tag. Let's save this. Go back to the web page. Refresh. As you can see, the profile currently appears in italics form. We have a bunch of HTML elements, and of course, I'll share a reference with a link below. Kindly ensure you check out the reference. Make sure you go through most of them, but we'll continue to the next session. Let's create a new section with our H1 tag. Let's call this list. Next, we're going to create a UL which basically stands for unordered list. And then we're going to add a couple of list items. Let's say we have list of users. Now we're going to have Manuela, Marker, Marvelous, John, and Do. Let's save this. Over to the browser and let us refresh. Scroll down to the bottom of our page. Now you can see we have list of users. This is what makes it unordered. We can see that our lists are displayed with bullets. Let's go ahead and make this an ordered list. We're going to change the UL to OL. Let us save. Back to the browser. Refresh. Now you can see that the list of users are being displayed with numbers. This is an ordered list. Let's go ahead and show you how to insert images into your HTML documents. We are first going to create a new file. Call this image.html. Let's go into image.html. Create the basic structure. Within the body, we're going to have a section. And then we're going to have our H1, profile image. Next, we're going to have our image tag, which is img. And we're going to have the attributes src, which stands for source. Within the source, we're going to put in the link to our image. Before we put in the link to our image, we also have the alt, which stands for an alternative text description to our image. The image tag does not need a closing tag. Let's go ahead and put in the link to our image. Let us visit Unsplash. Let us right click on this image, copy image link, back to our code, paste. Basically, what we've done is take an image from Unsplash just to show you an example. Let's go back to our web page. Let us change the name of the file now that we're working with a different file to image. Now we have this image shown up on our page. There are a couple of ways to style this image, such as changing the size with regards to the height and the width, and also changing the border radius of this image. We'll work on stuff like that when we start using CSS. Let us try to work with a local image. Let's go down to pictures. We're going to move this image into our web project. Basically, we're going to copy, open the web basics folder. Let us paste. I was able to copy this using Ctrl+C from this location, and I pasted it in here using Ctrl+V. Let's change the name of this file to imagefile.png. Basically, you can use any name in here. Let's go back to our Visual Studio Code environment. Take off the copied link. Now, let us simply call image file.png. Let us save. We are able to reference this file because we have this file directly on the root of our web page. We will learn how to work with folders in a later video. Let's go back to the web page. Let us refresh. Now we have the image from our local machine. Let's come back and add more attributes. Let's work with height attributes. Make this 100. Let us save this. Go back to the browser and refresh. Of course, this is looking too small. Let us adjust this a little bit. 300. Let us save. Back to our web page. Let's refresh. Now you've seen how to adjust the height of your image using the HTML attributes. You can also use CSS for this. We can also adjust the width of this image if we want to, simply by adding the width attributes. Let us save this. Back to the web page. Let's refresh. Now we have a stretched image with a height of 300 and a width of 500. Let's go ahead and show you how to work with videos. So I have a sample video downloaded from Pixels. We're going to rename this video. Let's call it sample video. Next, we'll go back to our code. Let's take off the image. Let's call it profile video this time around. We're going to put in our video tag. Inside the video tag, we're going to have our source with the src attribute. In here, we're going to pass in the sample video.mp4. We can also add the type attributes, showing that this is an MP4 video. You can actually have multiple sources, which would make the video play one after the other. Right now we have only one source, but it is possible to have multiple sources in here. Next, we'll close the video tag. Let's save this file. Let's go back to the browser. Let's refresh this page. Though this is quite long and big, it currently doesn't have any control, so we cannot play this video. Let us go back to our documents. Next to the video, let's go ahead and add controls. Let's also set a decent size, width 500, and a height of 300. Let us save the document. Go back to our web page. Refresh. Now you can see we have the controls. You can play this video. Well, basically, this video doesn't have any sound. This is how you work with videos in HTML. Let's talk about the basics of forms in HTML. I would go ahead and create a new file called forms.html. Let us put in our basic HTML structure. Basically, a form in HTML is used to collect user inputs. Let's go ahead and show you a couple of examples on how to do that. We have created the form using the form tag. The next thing we'll do is to add our input tag. The input tag has a lot of types. Some of the types include the radio, checkbox, submit. We also have the input type for text, for emails, and also for password. Let's go ahead and try some of these types. We have the attribute placeholder. The placeholder attribute shows a description of the input expected to go into that field. Let's try the type of password. Let's also have one last type of submits. This is our form. Let's change the text on the button. Using the value attribute, we can change the text on our button. Let's create a radio button and let's group this with a div. For the radio button, we're going to have attributes of ID, name, and value. We're going to call the name select group. We're going to attach some labels as well. This label will be pointing to the ID of mail. This is a basic form in HTML. As we progress, we'll learn how to work with forms with realistic examples. Working with checkboxes, validating email addresses and password, and also submitting the form using JavaScript. In the next class, we'll start working with CSS. We'll learn different ways to style our HTML documents using inline, internal, and external CSS. Hope you enjoyed this session. Ensure you join the Discord server for the Q&A session. Thank you.